Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is your brother Gabby Romani for Nikagram. My dear brothers and sisters, we spoke about polygyny. We spoke about the marriage contract. We spoke about how many now put this clause that a man should not marry another wife. We also discussed how men are going to lie and they're going to somehow find a way to practice polygyny, whether it is legal and lawful. There's two differences here. Legal means like in the country where you are, obviously. I always advise people to abide by the laws. But then lawful, meaning in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's lawful, unlawful. So they'll practice it one way or the other one. But in many cases it will be unlawful but legal, meaning prostitution in some countries it is legal, but it's unlawful inside of Allah. Massage parlors and pretty much prostitution, it's legal in many places, but it's unlawful. Zina, it's legal in many places to commit zina, to sleep with if it's consensual, but it's unlawful. Now, men are gonna do a lot of things. And people might say, what are you talking about? Muslim men are not like that. Well, I'm telling you, I work with them. I've been working with them for 20 years. I can definitely tell you that many Muslim men are falling into this. Not all of them. Many are struggling. But bottom line, it goes back to the fitrah of being a man. A man is going to want to express his sexuality through intimacy. Allah has given him either 4 wives, or malakat ayman, which are bonds or maids, servant women, maids, which again, it's a different story. I'm not going to get into it, but I'm talking about here the academic and legality within the Sharia. We're not talking about what happens in Canada or USA or no, that's not. We're talking about here about Islam. We're talking about here about the legal and the code of Islam. We're not, it's an academic discussion. So when we are looking at these issues of Missiar, or what's called a secret marriage, we have to make the distinction between that and between a woman forfeiting some of her rights. A lot of people think that Missiar means automatically the woman has to forfeit her rights. And a lot of people believe that if a woman forfeits some of her rights, that it automatically means Missiar. No, it doesn't. Okay? That is very, very clear that it's not how things are. So, what is the difference? Well, a woman could technically give up some of her rights and not be a Missiar. It's not a secret marriage, not hidden from certain people or from certain family members who have tribal affiliations or want you to marry the cousin from the village, or they will not allow you to do this, and they rather that you commit zina than to get married, right? So it's not like that. It might be that everyone knows about the marriage, but the wife says, look, I don't want this. I don't want, for example, whatever. Sauda radiallahu anha, for example, she gave up her night to Aisha. Was the Prophet married to her Missiar? No, he wasn't. Everyone knew, okay, it was not a secret, it was not something hidden. They were married normally, whatever. Obviously it was polygyny. But she gave up her night, her intimacy right. Could be other rights as well, if a woman wants to. The key is here that the ball is in a woman's court. They negotiate. Obviously, people are not going to have issues, obviously, right? Because they were okay with her putting in the contract to not allow the man to marry a second wife. So then so he's given up one of his rights and he's agreeing. So obviously, if that is a discussion between the two of them and she agrees, no one should have a problem with her giving up some of her rights. Do you see the double standard that happens in our ummah, in our community? That it's many times pushed by famous da'is and so on, and especially, of course, feminist Muslim women. So, again, the distinction is a woman could give up some of her rights and still not be a Missiar. A woman could be Missiar and give up none of her rights. It's just that people really don't know. And a woman could be where it's both. She is a Missiar, not too many people know about it, but she is giving up some of her rights because it's easier for the man to marry her then. This is a complicated thing, but bottom line, it goes back to an agreement between the man and the woman. If before marriage they agree to certain things because of circumstances, whatever, for example, the man, his family does not allow him to get married other than the Pakistani girl from the village who's the cousin of the mother of the sister. Okay? And he's stuck. And he has been spending most of his days on Pornhub, masturbating. And he's like, but I can't do it anymore. And then obviously a sheikh tells him, hey, you're a man. You don't need anyone's permission. Go get married. So what I do, I don't tell my parents. I'm not encouraging that. I'm just giving you the hypothetical situation. Don't get funny here and be like, I'm encouraging people to disobey their parents and blah, 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 blah. But funny thing is that people would rather they disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than to disobey people and human beings. Funny. It's funny what positions we have reached today. Now back to the issue. Why would men want to be and do misyar? And why would women accept? Well, the situation and circumstance of today's world is that certain women are in a certain position where they themselves want misyar. They don't want full marriage. They don't have time. I had a client recently who said, look, my husband visits me every 2 months for like a week or two. I'm fine. I'm in a situation where this would fit me and this is what I want. So women, many women want misyar. It's not that just the man, it benefits the man. It actually benefits the women. They're in certain situation, they cannot do full-on, full-time marriage due to whatever circumstances have been. And then they basically say, hey, we'll do this. Though they themselves are putting those conditions. And of course, these conditions best fit a polygamous marriage where the man is busy somewhere else, has other things, and then he goes to her whenever the time is. Oh, for intimacy only? No, it's not just for intimacy, but that is a big part. Why has it become that our ummah is so self-righteous that somehow intimacy is, it's taboo? When the Prophet ﷺ himself used to visit all of his wives sometimes in one night and have intimacy, and he would love to have intimacy. And as Aisha radiallahu anha narrates, and Imam Tirmidhi gathers this hadith in the Shamal, the beautiful descriptions of the Prophet ﷺ in his life, that the Prophet ﷺ would sometimes wake up, pray tahajjud, and come and have intimacy with her right after tahajjud. So imagine you wake up to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most spiritual thing which most people cannot do, to wake up, and then before Fajr you have sex with your wife, right? Now, the Prophet ﷺ was the most spiritual, the best person. No one ever, if you believe otherwise, you have problems in Aqidah, huge problems. You probably, I don't want to get into it. So why? See, the problem is with us. The problem is with us, we've made up things. We've been convinced by society that we should be ashamed when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made certain restrictions. You should be ashamed for committing zina. You should be ashamed for masturbating, watching pornography. You should be ashamed for being gay and lesbian. You should be ashamed for all this garbage that people are pushing to, and they're okay with it, and you're okay with it. Yet you're ashamed of the sunnah of the Prophet, and you put hindrances and blocks in the path of the sunnah when a person wants to do haram, be them man or women. I emphasize here again 1,000 times that women want polygyny and women want misyar as well. Because my dear sister, it's not all about you, that you are the first wife, you're just like 21 and you think you're entitled to have this perfect Romeo and Juliet wife. No. Like, there's girls who are under 35, 40. They've been divorced. They are widows. Certain things happen. They had issues with their families. They had issues with health, with all kinds of stuff. They made mistakes. They just woke up. They were in education for whatever, how many years, master's, PhD, and they woke up, they saw something, it inspired them. They woke up and they realized how messed up of a life they left, or they led, and they left it. And now they want to get back to at least gather and live the remainder of their life, so whatever Allah will give them, in a good way, in a traditional, correct Islamic way. But they also understand that, hey, I cannot have children now, or I cannot do this, and I cannot do that, and my value is gone down. And they're honest with themselves. And they're honest with themselves. Rather than live with a cat, and a vibrator, they rather actually marry and be with proper men and do things for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I want you to understand that. Okay, the difference between misyar and the difference between giving up so many rights, the agreement between brothers and sisters when they get married, and the double standard of people pushing for the blockage on second marriage, but not pushing for, hey, if a woman wants to give up her rights, she wants to be a misyar, she wants to give up some of her things, then she can as well. So this is again for informational purpose, so people can understand the hypocrisy and double standard that we're faced with today when it comes to marriage. And only these things are only going to push, again, for people to commit more sins, for us to distance ourselves from the Sunnah of the Prophet and from Islam, to follow more Western, non-Islamic standards of life, and to literally not recognize ourselves anymore, and to be ashamed of our deen and our tradition and the life of the Prophet and his character. I advise again imams and da'is to teach men how to do polygyny properly, teach men about misyar, to teach families not to put blocks and limitations in their children's path, so they can, inshallah, marry as good as they can, inshallah, without having to hide or to do things and to try to still be in halal. Keep in mind, last thing, that those people are doing misyar, in the end, they're still doing nikah. They're still trying to fulfill the halal. They could be doing haram, and they could be going to all kinds of avenues that are available everywhere to do haram, but they're not, because at least they fear Allah to that extent. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless them and protect everyone. This is Brother Gabriel Armani for Nikagram. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Don't forget to subscribe, to check nikagram.com, and get married inshallah. Bismillah. Let's revive the sunnah.